Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Sega Genesis game, and it's known as Phelios, I believe that's how it's said. Now originally this game was released in the arcade in 1988, but the arcade version was never released outside of Japan. But the Mega Drive version did get released outside of Japan and came out in North America in 1990 and in Europe in 1991, and it was developed and published by Namco. So this is a vertical shoot 'em up, as you can see here, and the setting this time around is not your typical space stuff that you usually see. Instead, it's actually a Greek mythology setting, where you're riding on a Pegasus while shooting lasers out of your sword. And I have to say, I really like that they were trying to be different with this one. And speaking of which, Namco actually made a game before this one called Dragon Spirit, which is very similar, but instead of riding on a horse, you're riding on a dragon. But I'll talk more about that one someday. So here goes the story for Phelios. So you take control of a prince named Apollo, and you have to rescue his beloved named Artemis, because she was being kidnapped by a demon named Typhoon, and that's literally about it. So as to be expected within most shoot 'em up games, the story is simple, and it really isn't the most important part of why you play it, but it works fine for what it is, so therefore we'll just have to leave it at that. So now, let's take a look at the gameplay. So you're riding a Pegasus in the sky while shooting stuff out of your sword. So you collect power-ups that make your guy go faster, and of course there's also ones that make your attack stronger. And the way how you shoot in this game is actually pretty different. So the sword meter on the side, it goes red every time you shoot. So you can shoot rapidly really fast, but you won't do very much damage. But if you hold down the fire button until this whole sword turns red and then release the fire button, you can make a very powerful attack. It is very useful, but the thing is you have to use it at the right time because you do leave yourself open. But it is highly recommended, especially using it on the bosses. And whenever you get hit, you actually have 3 chances before you die and fall off your horse. Which I think is always a nice touch. I mean, it is kind of annoying when you have like one of those games where you just die in one hit all the time. But I'd say this game still knows how to be pretty damn tough. Even on easy mode, it can still be pretty tough at times. But there is one thing that does make it very different though, is that if you're playing on easy mode, you only play the first 4 stages. So if you beat it on easy, it says, "You have cleared the novice route, but I am still in Typhoon's temple, so please try again on advanced difficulty." Something along those lines. So yeah, it's one of those things that I'm sure we've all heard in a very infamous video game. So if you play on advanced, you actually play through all 7 levels, and the game is much harder. So that's pretty much it for the gameplay. So now, as for the controls, I actually think they're very good. I find everything is very easy to get used to. I really don't have any complaints whatsoever. And they are very responsive and they do work very well, so like I already said, there's nothing much I can really complain about here. Now as for the graphics, I think they look really nice. Now the graphics are not nearly as good as the arcade version, but for Sega Genesis, this still looks pretty damn good. I find it has a lot of nice good colors, nice backgrounds, and the game scrolls very smoothly. And all the characters and enemy designs look good. Now one thing I would like to mention here is that yes, this game is actually censored outside of Japan. In fact, that was actually one of the reasons why that the arcade version of the game never came out over here, was because of the whole bondage thing. So in the North American version, and I don't know about the PAL version, but I know for a fact for the North American one, it was censored. But you know what, it's not a huge deal. So other than that, I don't have any real complaints about the graphics. But one thing that did amuse me though is that if you see the first boss with the Medusa head and it shoots a laser at you, well it shoots 2 of them, I find that the laser looks awfully a lot like bacon. Okay, I know it's supposed to be red lightning here, but just if you look at the way how it moves, it just looks like bacon. So maybe in this world, whenever you look into the eyes of Medusa, instead of getting turned into stone, you get turned into bacon. Which is probably a terrible thing to happen, because that would mean that you would probably be the first one to be eaten in a survival situation. Now that's a first. I never thought I had ever had to reference a Psycho Stick song. But anyways, that was just funny to me. So now let's move on to the music. And I think the music in this game is not bad. It's nothing crazy memorable to me, but it does sound pretty good for what it is. Although I really like the theme within Stage 3, but as for the rest of the music, it's actually not bad, but it's just not my most favorite thing ever. But it definitely does suit the theme very well, so I don't have anything bad to say about it. And one last thing I'll have to say is that the sound quality within this game is actually pretty good. Considering that there's a lot of people that complain about the sound quality within a lot of Genesis games, and yeah, there's a few of them out there that do have pretty bad sound effects, but this one actually does sound pretty good. So now, as for the voices, yes, they actually tried to implement the voices from the arcade version, and the sound quality on that is not really the greatest thing ever. But I will give them some credit that they at least tried to get them into the game, and it's not the worst voice samples I ever heard, so with that being said, it's not really anything all that great, but they at least tried, and it is definitely way better than Fighting Street or whatever the hell it's called. So now, if you want to buy this game, personally for me, this is a game that I don't see very often at all. Actually, I don't ever recall seeing it ever. But just for some general prices, the game usually costs about $18 all the way to like $35, which is actually not too bad when you think about it. Now yes, there are a couple of copies that are going for like $50, but I think there are some other ones that look just as good as the $50 ones but are just cheaper. So finding it out in the wild might be a bit tough, or at least it is around here. It might be different for other places. But as for the general price range, it's actually not too bad. So now as for the score, if I were to rate this game, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Personally, I find this to be a really fun shoot 'em up on the Genesis. I mean, I really like the idea of the game, I like the fact that it's trying to be different within the genre. It's very fun, easy to pick up and play, and it provides a good challenge. So for me personally, I really enjoy this game. Now I do happen to be a fan of the genre, but even at that, I still find that this is actually a great game to play. So I really don't have much issues with it whatsoever. So an 8 is great. So if you want to play a shoot 'em up that is not set in space, I can definitely recommend this game to you. And it's another great exclusive to the Genesis and Mega Drive. So with that being said, I really enjoy this game, even though I know I already said that already, but we're gonna have to end things here. But thank you for watching and commenting.